What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back live on YouTube. Woo! 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 Jeez, man, I am fired up. You see the fucking veins running through these pythons. That's how you know how much this means to me. Shit quality, I don't care. Folks, I apologize for the um, for the shit camera quality. For me, man, I mean, folks, I tried everything to get it to work perfectly for the comeback, but it didn't do. There's nothing more I could do, man. So, folks, today our episode 8, our return of MMA Reloaded Real Talk podcast. Remember, we talk real, we never lie, cheat, and steal. And stay tuned for your MMA Reloaded merchandise coming soon. Your t-shirts, your hats, your tracksuits, your tracksuit bottoms, your vests, your bras, your fucking jog straps, bro. It's all gonna come with that big red logo right in the middle. MMA Reloaded. Don't get any more real than that. Today, we are joined by a man I am very, very fond of. A man I've become a fan of ever since his legacy days and ever since his Ultimate Fighter days trailing back. He is now tearing up ONE FC's Instagram highlight reel with his educated feet, his martial arts passion and technique, Thanh Lee. And folks, he is a real life dragon. This kid is an absolute beast in the ring, in the cage, whatever setting he's in at ONE FC, he is the best, man. And I have to say, he is what a martial artist should be. 11-2 in his career right now. 3-0 at ONE. Thanh Lee is an animal. And of course, competing amongst Asia's finest. He is what a martial artist should be. So, folks, we're just going to fade away and invite Mr. Lee to our show right now. So folks, don't mind if we just go away for a while. I mean, that's just what we do, you know what I'm saying? We bring it to you live. There is no one that does it quite like MMA Reloaded. And we bring it to you live, folks. While I'm gone, just enjoy that big ass red screen, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Folks, we are live, and while we wait for Thanh Lee, I suggest you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on wherever martial arts is available, and I bet you a highlight reel with Thanh Lee will be there, man. I mean, it's so hard not to have him in a highlight reel of martial arts. So, folks, while we gather our thoughts here and wait for our star, we have come off three huge fight nights. Three huge fight nights. UFC 249. We've come off Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith. And we come off Walt Harris and Alistair Overeem. Now, let me tell you something, folks. There's been a lot of shit with John Jones and Francis Ngannou. Now, I have to just say that Francis Ngannou and John Jones was never going to happen, despite the tweets, despite the, that's all they were, really, man. Just tweets and Instagram posts. Just shit talk. There was no talk with Dana White or Sean Shelby. It was just some schoolyard Twitter bullshit. That's all it was, man. I don't care who the fuck says otherwise. It was just some Twitter bullshit, and I'm not having that. Look, man, John Jones has Dominic Reyes, Jan Blachowicz. Yeah? He's got Thiago Marreta Santos on his ass. That's bad enough, G. That is bad enough. And for Ngannou, he is about a fingertip away. Not even that finger, bro. This finger. Not even this finger. He is this fingertip away. Yeah. From a heavyweight championship shot, man. What the fuck is actually going on inside the mind of Francis Ngannou and John Jones? John, defend your championship, G. Let's see how long your legacy will last with you and that strap. Francis, go get some of DC. Go get some of Alistair Overeem. Go get some of Walt Harris. Go get some of Curtis Blades. Go get some of Stipe Miocic. Go get your world heavyweight championship, bro, because you deserve it. That's just the way it is. You feel me? All right. Next prick I have to talk about. Nah, actually, nah. We ain't gonna talk about it. Conor McGregor, I was just gonna say, but I've talked enough about McGregor, and I don't think he's worth all that much right now. Unless I see something that I am impressed by. Apart from that Cerrone fight, his mouth might as well be the lightweight champ. He ain't shit. Oh, here we go, folks. Tan Lee. Let's go. Let's go, sir. Okay. Hey, Tan, how's it going, brother?
Going real well. How's about yourself?
Man, it's going all good, bro. It's going all good. So first of all, man, I want to thank you for being on the show today, man, because I know we've had a lot of like back and forth messages, like time differences and shit like that. So, bro, I appreciate it, and it's going to be a good show, man.
Would you rather I flip the screen or what? Does this work better?
Oh no, this is cool, man. Yeah, that's cool. Well, I have to say, of course, my obvious question will be lockdown and quarantine. How's it all going for you? How's training going in lockdown and quarantine right now?
Well, trying to keep it as regular as possible, you know. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on, which limits traveling, which limits bringing training partners in and things like that I would normally do on a regular basis, and travel, train at different gyms, things like that. But as far as training at home, training with good friends of mine, my brother, training partners that I have here in Louisiana, going really, really well. I probably couldn't ask for a better situation as far as being stuck in one spot and training at your home gym. And I'm getting a lot of good guys in, you know, making best with the resources I have.
And you know what? And that's the best we can do right now, man. Because of course, with people and their loved ones dying all over the world, bro. And of course, my heart goes out to them. It is it's one of those things that, bro, you can't really ask for better training partners than your own family, man. And I have to say, I appreciate that. Do you have a certain routine that you follow day by day, or do you just take it as it comes?
I try to stay pretty well organized. So we'll definitely do our morning sessions at my house now. So that'll either be drilling jujitsu, or doing mitts and striking drilling, game plan drilling in the driveway outside to get some sun. And then at night we'll head to my gym, which of course is closed doors. And then I'll invite a select handful of guys so we can get some good training in. But I have it down on paper, and I usually like to focus on more of one thing over the other each week by week, but continuing to get in grappling every day, striking every day, and then MMA drilling, wall work, things like that, the in-between stuff, and probably every other day or so. So it's relatively well organized, and trying to use the resources I have. So if we have a different group of guys that come in and some guys can't make it, we'll definitely accommodate and go to their strong suit, and whatever they bring to the table, we'll definitely take advantage of, you know?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's seen your fights know that your striking does not need any training, bro. They know how educated your feet are. But no, I hear you, man. For real, you got to get those reps in, especially at this time. And as a fighter, it's so difficult to try and keep motivated. How important is it for you or for any fighter at this stage, to stay mentally healthy and mentally ready?
That's a big part of it, you know. You always hear coaches and guys talk about how this game is so mental and focused around performance and mental performance and being in the right headspace so you can physically perform to the best of your ability. And they're not wrong. They're 100% correct. And that's a hard thing to do in times like this, you know. You've got friends, family members possibly getting sick. You've got your normal routine being broken, things like that. That could, if taken the wrong way, could really, really send you in the wrong direction and kind of put a kink in where your mental standpoint is, you know. But that's one thing that I really pride myself on is doing things the right way here, trying to approach things as smart as possible, as smart as I know how to do. Try to get as much advice from the outside of the crew as possible. And you said it right. It is really important, especially in times like this, and especially in bigger and bigger fights that you run into, to be mentally prepared, be mentally tough, to keep your head in the right space before you approach fights, fight week, camp, all those things. But yeah, it's something that I guess naturally comes a little easy for me. I've got a great support group around me. My family's wonderful. My wife's wonderful. So it's real easy to be in the right headspace for things like this.
No, for sure, man. And you said it right. We said it before early on that your family is the most important thing at this stage, especially at this time. You know, and I just want to get back to the intro because right now, bro, you're 11-2, and of course you're 34 years young. I just want to say that you've been on the big stage, yeah, bro. You've been in the UFC. You've been on the Ultimate Fighter. You're a true veteran of the sport, bro, and in my opinion, you embody what martial arts is supposed to be. So I have to say, bro, from the ONE FC recent rankings that were just released, you're ranked right now at lightweight. How do you see that playing out, bro? Do you see yourself? How do you see yourself in your career right now? How do you feel in your career?
I think one thing that keeps me motivated and keeps me strong-minded is you're never satisfied, you're never happy. So immediately, first thing that pops into my head, you see, I think I was ranked 4 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pissed. I'm not champion. Of course I'm pissed, obviously I haven't earned that belt yet, but that's the next step in the process. So little things like that you got to keep yourself motivated with. And it's awesome to be able to, you could sit back and see you're ranked number 3 in the world in such a wonderful organization and just be happy with things and how things are going. But, I should be in the number 1 spot. So why not? Okay, they've got Christian Lee, who's fought Martin twice and is a lightweight champ. You've got Matsushima, just lost the fight for the belt. So he's obviously a title contender who just fought Martin. So it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But I'm me. So I'm concerned with why I'm number 3 and I want to be number 1. So day in and day out, you take a look at those rankings and it keeps you motivated and keeps you training and doing the right things and heading in the right direction. So obviously, one is a wonderful organization. So they're doing a great job of really, not being biased and putting the right guys in the right spots. And the way they did the featherweight rankings, it makes a lot of sense. And they should get ready to change that soon because I'll be moving up. So,
I mean, how do you see that playing out? Because, like you said, those top 2, and including Christian Lee as champion and Martin Wynn, who's right there up his ass. Do you see yourself facing Martin Wynn next, or do you think Matsushima's next up on the list?
Yeah. So Martin just did an interview where he just kind of released some information, letting them know that I was next in line for the title fight. So that's where we're at. We're gonna go take that belt.
Let's do it, man. I think, bro, when you look at that division and you look at the competitors, what makes it so stacked is the impact that each competitor makes in their fights. Christian Lee's a very impactful guy. Do you see yourself fighting Christian Lee at some point during that time?
Yeah, absolutely. There's small plans, short-term plans, and there's long-term plans that I have for this sport. One of the things is to be able to get this featherweight championship, defend my title. And then Christian Lee's a lightweight champion. There's no reason why we can't go up to 55 or go up to the lightweight division and fight, see what we can do there. And, explore different options. Different MMA obviously is my main concern right now. Being the featherweight champion is my main concern right now. And then defending that title against the best guys in the world. But I'll always continue to chase the toughest opponents. So when the featherweight division's toughest guys are cleared out by me, and I make it that far, I'd love to start exploring into different divisions. And obviously Christian Lee's on the featherweight rankings and he's a champion of the lightweight division. So he's an obvious next step in my evolution as a fighter. So
let's do that, man. I wish you all the best in that journey. Of course, after lockdown is all over with. I just want to touch on your run, bro, because you've been on the Ultimate Fighter, yeah, but it was one of the most electrifying seasons of the Ultimate Fighter because it was Uriah Faber versus Conor McGregor. How did you feel going on the season with that sort of setup and those two coaches?
It was pretty cool. I'll tell you what, it was my first interaction with UFC level fighters on a daily basis, coaches on a daily basis, crew, marketing team, everybody that deals with that company. So it was really nice to be able to expose myself to that level of daily operations, the in and out of training, and how the Team Alpha Male camp likes to approach things, getting input and seeing how Conor was coaching his fighters. It was a great experience. It was made a ton of friends and a ton of relationships on that show. But yeah, it was really cool to be able to be on the season where at the time, the most electrifying guy in sports at the time, coaching and being a part of daily filming. Like it was really cool. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of that.
I respect that. And when we look after the Ultimate Fighter, you went to Legacy, if I'm not wrong, and you became the Legacy champ. So you were Legacy World's champ. When you went to Legacy, how did you feel? Because obviously you came in there with a reputation, of course, of the Ultimate Fighter, and you can bet that most of the Legacy guys watched that season and saw your face right there, and they're like, "This guy's just coming to our promotion right now, won our belt." How are you feeling going into Legacy?
It's a great feeling to be able to be a part of the show, and then go into a great organization like LFA. But a lot of those guys that fight for LFA are up and comers, and they're really high level contenders. And those guys train in big training camps next to UFC fighters every day, big training partners for UFC fighters every day, and then they're making their way to the UFC as well. So it's not anything out of the ordinary for those guys to see somebody who's been on the show or who performs well or whatever, coming off a great win or a bad loss, however the situation may be. But, I think it was really cool to be able to fight for an organization like those guys, and to be able to work my way up to a championship there. And the last two guys I fought for that organization, both of those guys are fighting for the UFC now. So it's really cool to be able to see, the guys that you are fighting, where they're at. My entry fight to get into the house was against the Ultimate Fighter house, was to get against Andres Quintana, and he's America's champ over there in the featherweight division or lightweight division. I'm not sure which one, but he's a champ over there. I think a year ago he won $100,000. So he's guys that I've tested myself against have been a really really high level competitors, and none of my 11 wins came easy, and it was really nice to be able to test myself against those guys.
No, definitely, man. And a few of those guys from Legacy, I've gotten a chance to interview, and I've seen how hungry they are. I mean, of course, Legacy is so highly scouted by the UFC. Did you think and you got your chance back on the Contender Series after Legacy? Of course, you won your fight. Did you feel that this was your chance back to get back into the UFC?
I did. I thought I performed really well, as close to a flawless victory as you could probably have. I had a head kick knockout, ended up finishing that fight really. I was going into the back room pretty excited, pretty happy, and I was expecting to possibly get the call, obviously, just like all the winners were that day. But they ended up signing Sugar Sean O'Malley. More power to him. He young guy, talks a lot of shit. Talked his way into that spot, I believe, and he did a great job, and he's a great fighter. So not to sign me, and honestly, things worked out for the best. Now I fight for one, working my way, about to fight for a title. I have zero complaints on the way things played out. It's been a great run so far.
It has, bro. And people think that, fans think that when you reach late 30s, 38, 39, or 40, that you're done, that it should be over. But no, that couldn't be further from the truth, bro. Because when you reach that age, you're in your prime. So you could even think that, wow, Tan Lee's only 34 years old, and he could be, and he's not even in his prime yet. Because when people see that one champion on Instagram, and they see the social media, and they see your fights, they think, holy shit, bro. Do you think that how do you react when you see yourself on that ONE FC social media growing and growing and growing day by day, bro?
That's one thing I really like about ONE and what they do with their fighters is they promote their fighters so well. They do a lot of social media interaction. They've got, they just posted something where close to almost 6 billion views or whatever the exact number was on their all of across their platform. So it's really awesome to see them utilize that to promote their fighters, because they know the fighters are what makes the company, the fans are what makes the company, and those guys do a great job of pushing that as far as promotion and appeal and things like that. So they do a really good job there. It's been awesome, and I'm privileged to kind of be a part of that ride as their marketing push, and posting a ton of videos and a ton of highlights and things like that. But it's really cool the way they promote things and the way they believe in their fighters and the way they promote martial arts as a whole. And that's why I'm so happy to be here.
I respect that, bro, and it's all about respect. It's all about. That's why I think that knowing your style, it fits so well at ONE FC. You fit like a glove, bro. And I think when we look at heritage and culture and that respect, we look at you and we look at your training in Louisiana right now, if I'm not wrong. Talk to me about your heritage and your background, bro, and how it all started for Tan Lee.
So I grew up in a martial arts household. My dad's done Taekwondo since he was a child from Vietnam. Came over to the States. My entire family does it. My father, my mother, my brother, who's my main training partner and my coach, and myself. So it's literally a martial arts household. I've been doing it since I was 4 or 5 years old. My childhood memories are traveling, going to tournaments from state to state here in the U.S. My first plane ride was to a junior national tournament in Las Vegas. Like, it's a big my life all have to do with martial arts. So it's really cool to be a part of that, and that's something that I should experience and everybody should feel, because it's such a great sport, because it teaches you about life. It teaches you how to be a man or a woman, an adult. It teaches you how to deal with responsibilities, deal with stress. Like, it's such a great thing to have from childhood on. And obviously I'm biased because I grew up that way, but I feel like any child who's into any type of sports needs to have at least a little bit of martial arts in their life.
Definitely. I think that's why I think martial arts is so underrated. And that's why I even started MMA Reloaded, is because I wanted to tell fans that martial arts is more than just kicking your opponent in the face. Yeah? It's about the discipline. It's about your honor and integrity. And it's about, bro, it's about the respect of, it's about family. And people don't really understand that about martial arts. That's why I think you have to explain it, and it's one of those things, bro, that you yourself and a lot of other fighters, or a handful of other fighters, sort of portray in their fighting style. How do you, of course, bro, martial arts, you've grown up with it. Vietnam to the United States. Were you born in Vietnam?
No, I was born in Kentucky and moved here to Louisiana when I was 5. So I've been here all my life. I have not been to Vietnam at all. My father's gotten to go back, but that's why this next matchup against Martin is really important. And MMA just got legalized in Vietnam, I guess a week ago or so. So it's just a perfect storm, I always like to say things happen for a reason. Obviously, things played out a little awkward in the last couple of months, and the situation's real crazy around the world. But when things settle down, I mean, the timing's going to be perfect. You've got Martin, myself, 2 Vietnamese fighters, Vietnamese Australian, Vietnamese American fighters ready to go at it. And what better place to have it than in Vietnam, newly legalized arena for fights? That would be phenomenal.
Well, can you just imagine the crowd? Can you just imagine the crowd for that one, man? That would be nuts.
No.
And of course, my next question is it's about something we were talking about earlier, about your prime, and I have to say, bro, a lot of fighters have their different perceptions on when to start a career and when to hang it up. Of course, how do you feel? I mean, what's your view on that, bro? Because you never know. It's MMA. You could start late and become pro late. What's your view on that?
100%. I mean, I didn't have my first bit of any type of grappling, wrestling, hands training, anything other than Taekwondo. I didn't start until I was 26. I mean, that's pretty late in life as a martial artist, as a professional fighter, right? But I had an entire martial arts lifetime of training before that. So that helped me, obviously. It helped me learn things a little quicker than the average Joe. But, you know, if you're going to make it to an elite level of fighting, obviously the idea and the goal is to start younger and younger and younger. But that doesn't mean if you start late in life that you'll never make it. You've got to learn the right way. You've got to approach things the right way. There's a ton of fighters who has started as kids but still train, you know, in a stupid way where they're not getting better every day. They're not capitalizing on skill gaps, not trying to fill those gaps with certain tools. They're not planning out their training. They're not planning out their game plan as a fighter, their skill set as a fighter. So those are a couple of things that I think are really, really important to accelerate your learning, because that can happen in any aspect of life, in schooling and learning the piano and learning a different language. And obviously martial arts is one of those things that you can do that as well. As long as you're learning from the right people, you're seeking out the right training partners and things like that. It is a much tougher job than just going into the gym and listening to coach and just saying, hey, what do I do today? But, you know, you've definitely got to invest a lot of your time into seeing your fight game as a big picture and digging deep down to the little details that are making your fights work, making them, you know, where the gaps are, where are the opportunities to continue learning, things like that. And then as far as the age thing, like the way we fight, the way we teach people to fight, the way we try to approach fights, you know, I use, you know, you see fights and you see highlights and you say, wow, that dude's fast or he's strong. But, you know, I use a lot more timing than I use speed. I use a lot more precision than I use power, things like that. So I can fight like this until I'm 50, to be honest with you. You know, you've got guys that are using speed and power and relying on durability to last through 5-round fights, championship fights, and things like that. And that's not a knock on them. They're using their superpower to their advantage. I'm going to use my superpower to my advantage. So it's just a different skill set, different development. But, you know, you use what you got and you try to use it to the maximum, and you ride that out as long as it's going to last. And then things like strength and speed start to kind of, you know, level out and plateau and then decline as age starts to increase. This doesn't, at least not until you get old, you know? So you've got a long time as far as years go to use this to your advantage. And I think that's one of my biggest strong suits. And I think that's why things have played out the way they have.
I mean, you touched on such a good point about young fighters who work themselves stupidly. I mean, does that when you translate that into a fight and they step into the cage or ring and they go one-on-one, how important is it for the coaches to motivate their fighter and give them direction? And how important is it for a fighter like that to follow that direction?
I think that's equally as important as having a really high fight IQ as a fighter. You need your outside corner to notice things that you're not noticing right in front of your face, to step back and see the entire forest rather than the trees. And then you've got yourself in there experiencing and feeling things that the corner can't experience and feel themselves. So it's definitely a two-way street, and it's definitely something that you have to use equally, feedback from the corner and feedback from the fighter as a coach. And you know, if the fighters, as a fighter, if I'm not listening to my corner, I see something you don't see. And then obviously as a corner, if I continue to repeat and put emphasis on this, I'm seeing something that you may not see. So it's really important to have a really good relationship with who's in your corner, to trust 100% in what they see. Because if you've got a new coach or somebody that you've only been working with for a few months, and you try to go into an important fight where you run into some hiccups, you've got some adversity that you're running into with techniques not working, timing not being right, reach is awkward or unusual, something that you're not used to. We've got to be able to talk and figure that out together without talking. And we've got to feel it out. You've got to see my movement. I've got to feel your coaching, your voice, your tone. Things like that are really important. And that's something that you can't replace in a camp. You know, that takes years to develop, that trust. At least from me as a fighter, it takes years to develop that trust and that understanding. And us really speaking the same language throughout round fights, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't matter how experienced the guy is or how young a guy is. Listening to your coaches is always going to be that important. I think you pretty much hammered the nail in the head right there, bro. Because that's just the way it is. I mean, it is so important to have that communication, have that relationship. Um, no matter how experienced you are, no matter if you got 100 fights on your belt, one fight under your belt, that's just the way it is, man. I mean, um, when we look at the MMA scene today, uh, and when I'm saying today, I mean in the past, I would say 10, 15 years, we look at fighters that talk shit. And in my opinion, bro, we look at predominantly the UFC and we look at Bellator. Uh, in my opinion, what are your thoughts on shit talking, Ton? And do you think it's necessary?
Can you repeat that last part? You kind of froze up on me a little bit.
Sorry, man. So when we look at shit talking in MMA, what are your thoughts on that, Ton? Because do you think it's necessary all the time, or um, do you think it could be prevented and the in-ring action could take center stage?
Well, to be honest with you, as a fan and a spectator, it's always fun to see, right? It makes you want to tune in. Bad blood. You know, somebody talks about somebody's family. Somebody talks about something that strikes a nerve, and it creates a lot of drama. It creates a lot of attention, and you know, it does do the job of selling fights. That's just not my style. It's not how I was brought up. That's not me as a person. So I don't want to fake it. I think that's even worse. When you see a fighter try to fake talking shit or fake being arrogant and cocky and trying to put on this persona or this like character he's trying to build into. That's just not my style. I'm real with my fans and, you know, interviews and fighters and weigh-ins and things like that. I'm just me. And, you know, I think that could have maybe not got me a spot or a contract signed in my previous years. And honestly, I'll never change the way I approach fighting. I'll never change the way I conduct myself as an adult, as a man. So, you know, if that makes me pass on an organization to get to another one, I'm so glad it worked out that way.
The thing is, bro, is when we look at one championship, you wouldn't associate one FC with shit talk because the action, the fight takes center stage. You look at highlight reels and you look at the Muay Thai division, you look at Sam Triple A, or you look at Rod Tang or guys like that. You look at yourself or Ong Lang Sang, you know, those guys take center stage. And I think that's what I love about ONE FC is because they don't talk shit, they fight, you know. And but I mean, do you find that if you were to compare your experience in Legacy and in the UFC to now at ONE FC, how would you sum it up?
I think it's a transition as far as different fan bases go. Organizations cater to what's going to sell tickets and get views. Obviously, we're in the entertainment business, so that's what we're looking for, to put on a good show for our fans and give them what they're looking for. I think, you know, for the UFC's demographic, maybe that plays out better for their bottom line. I think what ONE is about plays out better for them in Asia, to be honest with you. I think if the tables were turned and each organization was primarily in the other market, I don't think it would play out as well. I think, you know, there's some smart guys behind the scenes, I guess you could say, and they know who they're catering to and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to promote as an organism, as an organization, you know. And I think ONE does a great job catering to those fans. And honestly, I think that would carry over really even better to the US than some of the stuff the UFC does, bringing that over to Asia. You know, I think the respect, the humility, the honor, those focus on martial arts, I think that would carry over to the States a lot better than switching the roles, you know?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, with ONE FC, do you think where you know they don't use shit talking to attract fans, but they used signings and recruits, guys like Rich Franklin and Misha Tate, Demetrius Johnson. Um, do you think that that would be like the country's substitute for instead of talking shit, I'm gonna do this?
What I think they did was they took obviously, no matter what the entire organization as a whole is all about, there's always little pieces and little cogs in the system that may not speak the same language, even though they're promoting in the same direction. I think they pulled those cogs and put them into their system seamlessly. Rich Franklin, Misha Tate, just like you named, those guys, DJ. I mean, those are perfect pieces to bring over to promote and gain American fans, but bring that over to Asia because they carry themselves well as humans. And I think that was the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. And another thing, Tan, is of course at ONE FC they attract with their different divisions. You got the MMA division, you got the kickboxing division, you got the Muay Thai division, the boxing division. Um, would you see yourself going and competing in the Muay Thai division or in the kickboxing division?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's jobs that need to get done first, and obviously Martin's main on that menu, and then number 1 through 100 have to get cleared out as well, and then the lightweight division possibly next, and then after that, then we'll take a look at possibly kickboxing or some of the sports. I think that would be a lot of fun also. But right now, my concern, my focus, my limited time on this earth is all about MMA right now.
I mean, when we and I want to play a little. I want to just do a little segment now with you, John, because it's something we do a lot. It's called the throwback. So I want to take you back to January 2020, and we're gonna take you back to your one-on-one with Ryogo Takahashi. In my opinion, this fight was so interesting, bro, because it was fast-paced right from the outset. You tried to use your kicks, body kicks, your side kick, and you got caught in the first round with counter leg kicks, and then you came back beautifully in rounds 2 and 3 to sort of dissect him, and you TKO'd him actually in that one. So you sort of came back and caught his strikes and TKO'd him not long after. How are you feeling in that fight? Do you remember the fight at all?
Yeah. The fight was short. It ended in the first round, but in that limited couple of minutes, we had quite a few exchanges back and forth, right? And I think him focusing on the lower leg kicks was a big part of his game plan. I was trying to take that out of the equation, obviously. And him catching kicks was something that was a little new. And honestly, it wasn't expected, but it was something that I welcomed because the way he was catching the kicks, he was definitely taking the full brunt of the kick and then trying to catch it on the backside, which, honestly, you can block or you can catch. But as long as you catch the force that's coming behind the kicks, I'm completely happy with letting those fly 100 times a fight. He ended up catching the third or fourth kick or something like that, and he ended up trying to pull his way in off of that. And my downward force of my leg plus a front hand ended up putting him on the ground. So as he stood up, the two came in pretty solid, and that started the end for him. And it was I was really relaxed in that fight. I like the way I approached that fight because I had a terrible warm up. It was not a terrible warm up. I had no warm up basically, and we went out there and still performed well. So it was a cool little obstacle that popped up out of nowhere, and it ended up working out well.
I mean, bro, talk me through the finish because he caught. I think he caught one of your kicks. You pulled him forward, and you hit a right hand right on the button. I mean, to use a counter and it's not your counter, it's his counter to finish him off. That was genius. It was genius, Tan. I mean, talk me through that finish and what was going through your mind at that point.
Yeah, when that right hand landed, to be honest with you, he kind of spun off of it on accident because he was on the way down to anyway. But I'm surprised he was awake after that. I mean, obviously he wasn't there, but he was still awake. So we ended up getting together, clenching. I threw, I think, a knee. We backed up, and I ended up pressing with the right hand in a southpaw stance. He tried to swing over the top of the frame that I had, and then the left hand came down and hit, knocked him out basically against the ropes. And a couple of punches later, the ref stepped in. So it was that right hand definitely started the end. But his attempted counter to my kick ended up being a counter that I threw off of his counter. So it was a little back and forth there that worked out well. So
you never see that now, and it takes a special type of guy to do that, because he was longer than you, bro, because you were carrying a lot of muscle in that fight, and he was pretty much lanky, like a pretty slim guy. And you were particularly, your physicality was, you were a lot bigger than him physically. So of course there's that. You could look at that as a disadvantage, or you could look at that as a benefit. And it turned out to be your benefit, bro, in the end. And that was beautifully done, I have to say. I have to also say, did you happen to catch the UFC's return and the 3 UFC events?
I did. I didn't get to see the entire Overeem Harris card, but I saw the others. And the first one back was an awesome card to watch. That was a lot of fun fights. And the whole Cruz Cejudo thing, Cejudo retiring, that was big. It was a ton of great fights, man.
Do you think talk me through what you remember of that Cejudo finish? Because there's been a lot of controversy, Tan, and sorry, bro, to disturb, but he hit the knee on Cruz. Cruz went down by the cage, and Keith Peterson came in straight and stopped it. I mean, it looked like Cruz was going back to hit a single leg. What was your thought?
I saw that, and I think the ref decided to call it when he saw some of the punches down on the ground. But by the time he stepped in to separate, Cruz was already heading up to his feet. But to be honest with you, as a ref, if you start to see that, like you've decided I've got to call it, but you already see the fighter starting to stand up against the cage, that means he's attempting to defend himself. You call a fight when it's too far gone, when the guy's asleep, or if he's just deciding to not defend himself, right? And he's not intelligently defending himself. So I think Cruz was heading back up to the feet, and he definitely could have let that play out a little bit more. And it was interesting what Cruz brought up, that he specifically said before the fight, make sure I'm out. Don't call this early. Make sure I'm out. Make sure I have no chance in hell to come back. And, obviously the ref's going to do what he needs to do and what he thinks is keeping the fighter safe. But it kind of sucks to see a fight end a hair early when play out,
We sort of saw the same thing. We sort of saw controversy also in the Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith fight. Now, a lot of fans were thinking, why the hell did it get stopped when it got stopped? When Glover hit that combination, he was sort of teeing off on Anthony, and Anthony was trying to fight back. It got stopped, but and fans were thinking, why the hell didn't you throw in the towel? And Anthony's teeth had fallen out. Did you catch that one?
I did. I didn't get to see the last round, but that was interesting. Where one weekend you have something that was called just presumably a little early, and then you have something like that where the guy's handing you his teeth out of his face. That's man, they call him, his fight name's Lionheart, right? Or he's got heart, man. He's a soldier, and that was a tough fight to watch. And he kept fighting as any fighter should. And, you know, a lot of people give the corners a hard time because they didn't throw in the towel sooner. But, you know, my corner knows, I've told them this 100 times, like, you don't do that. That's my call. Let me die in there if I decide I want to die in there. This is my job. This is my dream that I'm chasing. And if you don't agree, then maybe you don't need to be in the corner, you know? And obviously your corner cares about you, and corner, you know, wants to see nothing but the best for you. But in certain fights, it's, you know, let me do my job. And then if I'm asleep, then the ref will call it. Otherwise, just let me keep going.
I mean, Anthony Smith, bro, was never gonna quit in that fight, and I think he had fake teeth at the top, and they were the ones that were coming out into the gum shield. And when that third round started, you didn't catch the third round, but when the third round actually started, it was he actually put his mouthpiece back in, and I think he was missing all the front teeth. And he came in and he went right after Glover, and Glover hit him with a sweet uppercut to end it. I think, when you look at Lionheart Smith, you look at that light heavyweight division. There's been a lot of. I just want to get your thoughts on this, because there's been a lot of criticism on Francis Ngannou and John Jones fighting each other. But of course, bro, in my opinion, that was never going to happen, because Francis was this close to a heavyweight championship shot, and Jones had Dominic Reyes rematch or a Jan Blachowicz fight. What's your view on that light heavyweight division, speaking as a fighter and as a fighter?
That's rough. I think as a fighter, your first obligations to your division, especially if you're champ. If you're ranked and you're not the champion, I guess you can kind of bounce around and do whatever you want that the promotion will allow, you know. But if you're champion, I think you have an obligation to defend your title and make sure you don't hold up the division. But we've seen in the past that obviously that's not top priority. Money is. So if you want to hold up the division for something that the company can make a ton more money with, they'll definitely hold up the division and throw in the interim title there. So you know, I'm not in charge of an organization, and who knows what I would do if I was in that position, but I'm glad I'm not, because that seems like a lot of stress, and it seems like a tough decision to make as far as what's profitable, what's going to make you the most money, or what's the right thing to do, you know? So I think the Ngannou fight would be an awesome fight as far as fans go, as far as me as a fan wanting to see it. But, you know, John, I think, went to social media and said something about him not being able to get paid enough, or he didn't get paid as much as he wanted to fight. And I'm on the same page as him. If you want me to fight an actual monster, I want to get paid a lot of money too. So, I mean, that's part of the game. Maybe he decides to retire off of it. I know he's hinting. Maybe it's a game he's playing to try to get leverage, but, you know, he has the right to do what he wants to do. He is the champion. He is holding up a division, but he also wants to make a company a ton of money by fighting Ngannou. So who knows what's going to play out, you know?
I think also another interesting topic, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is something so legendary that it could blow up. It could blow the shit out of the sport, and that's Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. I mean, a lot of fans have been going back and forth with this one, and of course, there's been a talk with Shannon Briggs and Mike Tyson, Bare Knuckle FC, because Mike signed a $100 million deal, and there's been a Tyson and Holyfield 3, and sort of in the works. What's your take on that, Mike? Because this
that's crazy. I tell you what, more crazy than all of that is watching Mike Tyson at 53 hit mitts. Yeah. That's the scariest shit I've ever seen. That's but I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan, so you can't ask me, because if I had to choose his career path from here on out, I'd say, you know, ignore bare knuckle boxing. That's not your thing, right? Go fight Holyfield. He's somebody that's you've fought before, obviously. Same age range. We're dealing with the same issues as two older guys in the sport, but do what you know how to do, and that's traditional boxing. Put the gloves on and do what you do best. And by looking at both guys' training videos, I only seen a little bit, so my opinion's not really worth much here. But I've seen Mike hit, and I've seen Holyfield do a little bit as far as training goes, not much. But it looks like Holyfield's in trouble, man. Mike is a fucking beast.
I mean, you know what, Tan, we sort of take a wrap to it right there. I appreciate you coming on the show, Tan, and it's been a pleasure to get the point of view of a real martial artist, one of the pure in our sport. And 34 years old, man. I hope to see so much more of you, man. You're 11-2 right now. I hope to see you at 60-2.
There you go. Well, I won't. I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So.
And of course, I would love to have you on the show again. This is MMA Reloaded Real Talk, man. And of course, Tan Lee, episode 2. Hopefully that comes soon, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Nah, thank you. And bro, we're releasing MMA Reloaded merchandise. A little shirt, and I'd love to send one to you, man, straight out there to Louisiana.
Absolutely. We'll put it on, put a little post on social media. We'll get you guys going.
Oh man, thank you, bro. Nah, I appreciate it.